Hello and welcome back to Umineko When They Cry, episode 17. Last episode, it got a little heated, and Ava started accusing Natsuhi of murder, and then Battler decided to interject and say, ladies, hold on. If we turn the chessboard around, okay, gosh, that is the funniest thing that's come out of this as of late. I've started referencing it with someone else. Just every time we talk about something, and when we talk about, looking at it from the other point of view, we always say, but if we turn the chessboard around, it's. Anyways, I low-key forgot the last part that happened, but I mean, I guess we'll see. I think I probably saved right at the end, so here we are. What are you talking about? Why would father need to escape the room in such bizarre fashion? Don't be so absurd. Yeah, it might be absurd. However, it still shows that there's a possibility Aunt Nazi is being falsely accused. Also, one, Battler's idea was that Kinzo was hiding under his bed whenever Nazi went in the room. Battler buddy, I don't think like an 80-year-old man is hiding under his bed. And also, we're going on the honor system that Ava is telling the truth about, one, putting the receipt in the door, and two, that, something. Like, we're going on the honor system that Ava's telling the truth. Which, I love Ava, but she's not the most truthful and trustworthy. Your receipt wasn't perfect. In chess, we might call that check. Why are you acting like you're a chess expert, bro? You're not a grandmaster. But it isn't checkmate. But the thing that really pisses me off, yeah, I said pisses, is how you're pressuring Aunt Nazi to explain it, then claiming that she must be guilty if she doesn't. If you want to go down that road, then why don't you let me? Ushirmio Battler, spin the chessboard around one more time. Yeah. I love saying spin the chessboard around. That's part of my vocabulary now. On Ava, according to your own argument, you must explain to us why you and Uncle Hideyoshi couldn't have killed those 6 last night and then casually returned to the guest house. You've been trying to force Aunt Natsuhi to explain, so I'm sure you can prove your own innocence, right? Especially now that all of Grandfather's wealth has suddenly plopped down right into your hands. That's right, you're suspicious enough yourself, aren't you? If you say Mom's suspicious because she was the last person to see him, then what about you, Aunt Ava, the last person to see Dad and the rest? Just like Battler said, prove that you two weren't the ones who killed him. Mother, I also think your reasoning was a little overeager. I'm sure the receipt was an important hint, but like Battler-kun said, that's not enough to prove that Aunt Nazi was responsible for some plot. We're all equally suspicious. It's not right for only Aunt Nazi to be persecuted. Thank you, George. You've come back into my good graces. Our proud father, crawling under his bed? You call nonsense like that an explanation? In that case, why don't you explain first? Who killed those 6 and how, and then try showing us proof that you weren't involved. Oh shit. Okay, I was making fun of that, but Jessica, honey, sit back up. Oh, she's still going. Jessica. My lady. Jessica suddenly started coughing. At first, I thought she was just choking after yelling too loud, but before long, I realized how painful it looked. Jessica kept coughing and choking, down on her hands and knees. Jessica, hang in there. Dr. Nanjo. Jessica-san, your inhaler, quickly. No, wait, I have one with me. Dr. Nanjo pulled a bronchodilator Shit, I don't know. I didn't know they were called that. I mean, I had an inhaler, but no one ever called it that. Broncho dilator? Inhaler from his own bag, which was lying on the sofa, and handed it to Jessica. Come to think of it, 6 years ago, didn't Jessica sometimes break into violent coughing fits and have to use that? Oh, or 6 years ago, I never saw Jessica look like she was in this much pain. Well, yeah, because progressive, you know, things get worse, Battler. Aniki, was Jessica's asthma always this bad? It's gotten a lot worse these last few years. It's no problem when she's normal. What the fuck does that mean, she's normal? But when an attack comes suddenly, she can't stop coughing anymore. Okay, I'm not doing all that. Because I know it's gonna hurt me. Just like it hurts her. Milady, your medicine. Here. Cough, cough. Taking the inhaler from Kanekun, Jessica used it with a practiced hand. It looked like her throat would still itch for a while, but she had it under control. Are you okay, Jessica? You scared me. It's no big deal. Don't worry about it. Beads of sweat covered Jessica's whole body, and she couldn't hide her rough breathing, but it looked like her sudden attack had calmed down for now. This disturbance had made the dangerous atmosphere up until now seem slightly unfocused. But that's fine. That kind of battle of mutual suspicion is completely unnecessary. When you think about it, finding alibis for each other and looking for the culprit is probably meaningless. After all, we're just powerless, ordinary people. And when the police come tomorrow, they'll definitely employ cutting-edge techniques and investigate the case thoroughly, solving all of the riddles and arresting the culprit. Perhaps Battler-kun is right after all. Just as Natsuhini-san is suspicious, I can't ignore the fact that I'm suspicious too. Arguing about that now will surely be unproductive. Everything will be fine if we just leave it to the police tomorrow. But don't you want to know too, Battler-kun? Who the culprit is? Don't you want to let them know the pain you feel from losing someone precious to you as soon as possible? I won't deny that, but you don't need to fucking guilt trip me, okay? Like, you're the only one who didn't lose anyone that you immediately care about. Okay, Ava? So, even one day would be too long to let the wonderful bastard who's behind this... The fuck you mean wonderful? But that doesn't mean I want to suspect one of the 18. Even though I said what I said earlier, I don't even want to suspect you, Aunt Ava. To me, you're an awesome aunt who's always fun and playful. I don't want to trade insults with an aunt like that. I wouldn't want to do that with anyone here. Right? Everyone? I feel the same way as Battler-kun. It's pointless to trade insults. It's probably just the stress built up because so many people have been crammed into one place since morning. Probably. It is only natural. It may not be my place to say it, but I think we should all relax as much as possible. Ava, I think we'd better cool our heads too. The receipt's definitely a big clue for figuring out how Father disappeared. We should tell the police about it when they come. That's right. Right. I just felt a little triumphant when I figured out that part with the receipt. Of course it isn't fair to only suspect Natsumi-san, right? We're just as suspicious. But still, Battler-kun, at least the part about the receipt is real, okay? Don't forget it. And try thinking deeply about what it means one more time, okay? Sure. Aunt Ava and Uncle Hideyoshi stood up. It looked like they planned on leaving the parlor, but Natsu said, "Stop it!" In the end, it's pointless for us to keep playing detectives. After all, the police will reveal everything anyway. That's right. Even if we don't play this detective game, the typhoon will pass. When those lively seagulls return to the harbor, everything will settle itself. That's right. If you think about it, this kind of crime is completely trivial. It will definitely be resolved, even if we do nothing. When the seagulls cry, "Oh my God! He said it! He said it! He said the thing! When the seagulls cry, when the seagulls cry." I don't know what a seagull sounds like actually. I've never been to the beach. I've been to the Gulf of Mexico, and that's it. Natsuhini-san, I take it you don't want to see my face anymore? I feel the same. If I remember correctly, yesterday you had some rooms prepared for us in the mansion so that we wouldn't need to go back to the guest house, right? Those should each have a bath and the toilet, as well as a lock and a chain to secure the door. There's even a bed to lie on, and my husband will be able to watch TV without having to fight with Maria-chan over which channel to watch. Right? 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 It's a gun. Do whatever you want, but make sure to be cautious. Thank you, Nissan. And mind your own business. I'll be counting on you to keep an eye on everyone, okay? Because the culprit is definitely here. And Nissan, make sure you don't forget to keep an eye on yourself too. Have you finished taking your parting shots? Yes, I'm finished. See you, Natsuhini-san. Genji-san, let us know when it's time for dinner. Until then, we'll lock ourselves in with the chain. Genji, Cannon, escort them to the guest room. We'll be fine. I hate shady escorts. In fact, I'd be more comfortable if nobody leaves this room until we reach ours. Let's go, George. But, me too? I'll stay here with everyone. I'm not the one who was trying to accuse someone of murder. George, the culprit is in this room. Do you plan on staying in a place like that? Leaving this room would be the same as suspecting one of my relatives. I can't believe anyone in our family is capable of something that horrible. George! Darling, you tell him too. George is already an adult man. He's 23 years old. His code tells him not to leave this room, and it's up to him. Let him do what he wants. Father. Aunt Ava and Uncle Hideyoshi left. The only voice that called after them was the sound of the rain. Crazy. Time pass? Time not pass. It's that damn chandelier, bro. The parlor was being buried beneath the savage atmosphere. When I looked at the clock, I was surprised to find that it was already evening. Oh, shit. Okay, time did pass. Had we really spent that much time worrying about needless things? Talking with each other? Fighting with each other? Feeling bored, I started scratching at my head when Maria and I made eye contact. I was a little surprised, since I thought she was completely immersed in the TV. I believe it now. The letter, the murders, everything, it was all Beatrice. In fact, I almost feel like begging her to come out and take credit for it all. I want it to be the work of a 19th person. Otherwise, the 18 of us will have to keep on suspecting each other. I think believing in a 19th person is better than that. Bringing grandfather outside without opening the doors and windows must be a piece of cake for Beatrice, right? Maria, after taking a single short breath, hung her head and then raised her face again. Oh, okay, we're back to frightening Maria.
That's right. Locking a door is useless against a witch. Beatrice is familiar with all 72 demons.
There's 72? Where are they coming from? Wait, is that like a thing? Is like 72 demons a thing?
The 33rd ranked gap gives the power to instantly carry the desired person at any location. Gap. Gap.
You just say it like Gap, or is there like a specific way to say it? Because I'm assuming they don't intend the retail store, the clothing store. Witches sure are incredible. Uh-huh. Tell her if she feels like committing another crime to do it in a way that no human could. Wink. Wink. And make me believe that a 19th person, no, a witch, exists. Yeah? Yeah-huh? Not head? Yep, for sure. Please, pretty please.
Okay. If I meet her, I'll tell her.
Maria, that doesn't instill me with confidence. In fact, I feel a little less assured. Oh, okay, now oh, damn, never mind. You know, I'm gonna stop trying to guess when time passes, because I think it's obvious. I want to see the second Twilight. As bad as it sounds, I really want to see the second Twilight. I want to see who gets taken. Crap. Nothing's made sense to me for a while now. Just when I want to believe in a 19th person, I deny it. And just when I want to believe that there are only 18 people, I deny that too. Even though I want there to be more than just the 18 people here, I can't accept the existence of that 19th person. In short, even though there are more than 18 people, there are less than 19 people. The number of people in this mansion is between 18 and 19. Shit, I had to do stuff like that. Oh, what math was that? Was that algebra 2? So it wasn't stats, I can tell you that. Yeah, well, because, yeah, Beatrice isn't a person, technically. She's a mindset. Beatrice is a mindset. Can we go with that? So the number of people can't be represented by an integer. Yeah, that's usually what a whole number is, Battler. However, it's impossible for there to be anything after the decimal point. How so? You shouldn't be able to show the number of people with anything but an integer. Well, we're not exactly talking about a person now, Battler. We're talking about a witch who can kind of do fuck all. And yet, 19 greater than 19, less than 19 greater than 18. How do you explain the fraction less than 1? It's no wonder that 19th person was something that couldn't be seen. That's why, since you can only write the number of people as an integer, you couldn't see that person. Am I crazy for thinking that half of this dialogue is kind of just like circular reasoning? Like, the witch cannot be seen because Beatrice has no body. I think we've established that one, but yes. Therefore, she is invisible. Yes. Is there a 19th person? Or not? Well, by your current logic, there's a fraction of a person, so not quite an 18th person, or not quite a 19th person, more so a 18 and a half person? Does the witch exist or not? Less than 19, greater than 18. The witch exists somewhere in that X. The storm Oh, okay, now we have time. Of course, it's when I stopped trying to guess. But time is passing, and okay. What time is that? 7? 7 o'clock? Ooh. Beware. Beware. The uncomfortable atmosphere continued even after those two left. It would stick with the idea that simply thinking about the culprit's identity would be the same as deciding whom to suspect. Well, whom are we suspecting? It had begun to feel like discussion of the case was itself a taboo. So no one mentioned the case, at least out loud. However, those thoughts were what filled our minds. All that we couldn't say aloud made our heads feel like they were going to explode. So at least on the outside, the parlor had once again regained its calm mood. Everything was left unsettled. It feels like the rain's gotten a little lighter. No, it hasn't. George, you... No, George. No, it hasn't, George. Oh, George.
Still pouring down.
Even if it did stop, there's no boat on this island. But it'd be nice if the boat came quickly tomorrow. Yeah, it would be nice. I've had enough of this Western Mansion vacation. Oh! I can't remember if I brought it up last week or not, but I'd been wanting to read, And Then There Were None. Because, since... I think I said I started reading it. Sensing the similarities, trapped on an island mystery, people are dying. So I actually, I read through all of it. Crazy ending, by the way. I actually was not suspecting that. But that one, slight spoiler warning for And Then There Were None. I mean, I'm not going to tell you who the killer was, but I am going to say that, in this case, the killer was one of the people on the island. So, do with that what you will. But then again, And Then There Were None doesn't have the supernatural aspect. But still, it was a good book. Unfortunately, I found myself in the possession of one of the older versions, pre-final name change. So not quite the controversial first naming, but the second name, which I was not a fan of, but I'm making alterations to the cover so I can see And Then There Were None. Mom, when will the boat come tomorrow? Sick and tired of this family vacation. Normally the boat to take them back would arrive at 3 today. They probably sent us a phone call to say that they would come after the typhoon passed, but unfortunately the phones aren't working. But they aren't children over there. They were told to both drop off and collect our guests, so they will most likely arrive first thing tomorrow morning. Probably about 9, I believe. Yeah, it's kind of like Fred and Ericott, and then there were none, and the boat people. Kind of. Narracott came after, the storm and stuff, and was like, man, I know I was told not to come back, but I'm feeling a little suspicious about this. And, I guess he had due suspicion. It was completely black outside. When I looked at the clock, I realized that it was just past 7. I was starting to get hungry. Well, Battler, you're a growing boy. In the kitchen, Kumasawa was cooking enthusiastically. Oh, she's enthusiastically cooking. She had laid out a variety of dishes, and while they didn't match the level of Goda's artful cooking, they were still quite gorgeous. Yeah, put some respect on her name, bro. It was an act of kindness from Kumasawa, who was trying to enliven everybody's low spirits with some food. Kumasawa wasn't nearly as talented as a professional cook like Goda, but she was far from unskilled. On the contrary, since she had been brought up in a fishing village, the simple food she created was sometimes highly praised. Cannon arranged the food Kumasawa had finished creating on plates under her direction. Cannon also helped in the kitchen sometimes, but since he was rarely placed in that role, he was slightly awkward, even though he tried his best. Self-conscious about the fact that he couldn't cleverly arrange the food, Cannon's expression darkened slightly. It's okay, buddy. You don't need to be the best at everything. But Kumasawa smiled as though everything was fine. Oh, it's arranged beautifully. Cannon-kun, aren't you skilled? If it had been Shannon-san, it would look even more beautiful. Cannon stopped arranging the food for a bit and hung his head. Shannon was the one who always assisted Kumasawa in her cooking. Tonight, Cannon was doing it instead. And as he remembered Shannon's face and her brutal end, he grimaced. Forget that for now. For a second, I thought it was about the... I just thought of Twin Peaks, because that first note sounds like falling. I feel like I brought that up. It could have been last time, it could have been the time before. But this is just so Twin Peaks themed, or soundtrack reminiscent. Genji spoke kindly to Cannon as he advanced a pawn. My bad. As a pawn. Nanjo had escaped from the parlor once the mood had grown sour, and Genji had become his opponent in a game of chess upon Nanjo's request. Yes, I will forget it for now. Indeed, it is probably for the best. Genji purposely refrained from facing Cannon as he spoke. He did so because he understood that it might make things tougher on Cannon if he noticed that someone was looking at his eyes. Nanjo also understood that and held back any thoughtless words. I wonder where Kenzo-san has gone. I hope that he is safe, but... well, we know how he is. I do not know. However, I believe everything has proceeded as the master has hoped and arranged for. To distrust that would exceed my role as furniture and service to the master. Aren't you scared, Genji-san? I am frightened that something bad will occur again tonight. I have nothing to be afraid of. I serve the Ushirmiya family, and that is all. Nanjo sighed through his nose and made a carefully considered move. Nanjo was very slightly dubious. Could Genji possibly be thinking that he'd be left out of this? No, I think he knows he's a part of the witch's game. It's more so, he, as furniture, he has to accept that he is up to the whim. Because he serves the Ushirmiyas, and technically Beatrice is a part of that. Due to the contract. He couldn't even imagine what was happening inside the mansion. But he definitely couldn't deny the possibility that Kenzo had devised something. If you liken this island to chess, Kenzo had opened the game, and as a result, 6 pieces had been defeated. 6 pieces had been defeated. 6 pieces. Could it be that Genji was calm because he believed he alone was on the outside of the chessboard and therefore safe? Nanjo thought about it. Isn't everyone just a piece on this chessboard lined up equally without exception? Wasn't even Genji, who had gained more of Kenzo's trust than anyone. No, who is confident of his position as Kenzo's only close friend. Just another one of the pieces laid out on the chessboard? Genji-san, I am truly frightened about tonight. I hope with all my heart that we will still be safe when tomorrow comes. Do you hear the people singing the song of angry men? It is the light. Will not be slaves again when the beating of your heart echoes the beating of the drum. It is about to start when tomorrow comes. Will you join in our crusade? Sorry, I just heard the guest room Ava and Hideyoshi moved into had originally been built to house guests before the guest house's construction. Ooh, words. Gotta love 'em. So until a few years ago, they had stayed in these rooms every family conference and were very familiar with them. This room was just like a room at a hotel, with a bedroom and a bathroom. How apt. So even though they were still shut in, it was far more comfortable than the parlor. I bet. I guess it's true you can relax more when you're alone with your family. Maybe it'd be better if everyone else also shut themselves in guest rooms and locked the doors. Perhaps. Natsuhini-san said that no one could leave the parlor, throwing her weight around. I'm sure no one will be able to talk back. She's always been treated so coldly. So now that Nissan's dead, she's getting excited about finally having so much power. Seriously, how shameless can she be? Come on now, don't say that. Natsu-san's doing pretty well. No need to jump on her like that. Dude, you were also accusing her of being one of the murderers. And about that receipt earlier. You went too far. Wow, Hideyoshi, it's a little late to call her out about that now. God. Come on. If I hadn't said it there wouldn't have been another good time to say it. Ava, sulking cutely and looking at the television, sat alongside Hideyoshi, who was lying on the bed. No music. Still, we haven't been alone like this for quite some time. I don't actually know who's saying this, but, I don't like the phrasing. The music, too. You're right. Come to think of it, both you and I have gotten pretty old. Where are we going with this? Since George was born, everything's gone by in the blink of an eye. It really has. I wonder if we're too hasty in having a child. Ava's eyes looked like they were staring off into the distance. Yes, she had thought of it as a once-in-a-lifetime chance. But children aren't all what they're cracked up to be. Her older brother Kraus had been unable to father a child for quite some time. 6 years passed after his marriage to Natsu without any signs of pregnancy, which didn't please Kinzo at all. Well, don't let a man tell you what to do and how to feel. In reference to Natsuhi. Ava herself had thought that, since her name would be moved outside the Ushimiya register when she got married anyway, it didn't matter whether a successor to the headship was born or not. And then one day, she had a heavenly revelation. Or maybe it was the whispering of the devil that she had listened to in her greed. If she could give birth to a successor first, wouldn't she be able to remain in the Ushimiya register? Oh. If things went well, maybe might she have a chance to inherit the Ushimiya family herself? When she proposed this to Hideyoshi, he had approved of it instantly. This wasn't because Hideyoshi also had greedy thoughts. For Hideyoshi, who had no close relatives, it was a chance for him to feel once more the long-forgotten thing called family. So when they got married, he hadn't fussed over which last name they were to keep, and had quickly agreed to have his name entered into the Ushirmiya family register. It hadn't been easy to persuade Kenzo, but, as his daughter, Ava knew Kenzo's personality well. So, by choosing the time when Kenzo was most dissatisfied with Natsuhi, she was magnificently able to make him accept Hideyoshi as an adopted son-in-law. Looking at Hideyoshi, who had achieved success after starting from nothing, Kenzo might have seen a little bit of himself. He quickly grew to like Hideyoshi and approved his transfer into the Ushirmiya register. George would eventually become the successor to the Ushirmiya family. They had raised him strictly with that purpose in mind. He had been worth their while and had grown into a fabulous young man who wouldn't disappoint no matter where he went. That was why he had not been permitted to fall in love with a servant like Shannon. So when she'd learned that Shannon was dead and the engagement was now invalid, though part of her had still been shocked by the gruesome crime, part of her had also been relieved that her dear George wouldn't be stolen by some servant girl. I have hated Kraus Nissan since long ago. He was so full of himself, always swaggering around. So proud that he would one day become the head. So I wanted to get back at him. Was that just a childish emotion? But in the end, that emotion guided my entire life. If that had been all, then it would have been fine. But because of that emotion, I got you and George involved. I used you. Ava, don't blame yourself for that. Hideyoshi got up and held Ava's shoulder. She could feel a warm understanding from him. Well, I reached the halfway point in my life long ago. But you know, I have absolutely no regards about how I've lived my life. Not one. Not a one. I think that since I've been with you, Ava, I've been able to relish an enjoyable life that other men never will. That's nice. After I lost my relatives in the war, you reminded me of what the warmth of family is. So, I'm grateful for the Ushirmiya family, and think of it as my only one. In this life I've led with you, not a single thing's been wasted. It's really been a fun life up until today. So the way they're talking, you know, it is a cliche for once characters start talking all hopeful and happy and things in that manner that they aren't long for the world, if you, catch my drift. They, you know, might be taking a little walk in the field, as some might say. Ava hung her head, burying her face in Hideyoshi's chest. I completely skipped that dialogue. Thank you, darling. Probably no one in the parlor could even imagine that this side of Ava existed. I'm the one who should be thanking you. Till today, there hasn't been a single day of regretting being with you. Me too. I'm so glad to have you by my side. Yeah, so... George is already fine adult, and even if I don't look out for him, he's a man who could do his job well on his own. I wonder, around New Year's, do you want to go spend some time in the Maldives? Just us, no one else. No way. Aren't you always saying that you're so busy responding to New Year's cards that you don't even sleep? None of that this New Year's. I won't read New Year's cards. I'll just stay quiet and check to see if I've won the New Year's lottery. Sure be nice if we won a color TV this year. No way. I don't want to waste time checking the lottery while in the Maldives. None of that either. How's it sound? Just the two of us, taking it easy like when we were newlyweds just before George was born? Well, it sure was nice getting to know Ava and Hideyoshi. Yes. In that case, fine. I hear the Maldives are wonderful. An island with nothing on it, surrounded by beautiful coral reefs and cottages lined up over the water. Like when we were newlyweds, you say? Starting when? As soon as I finish up some business. I won't know till last the travel agency, but probably before New Year's Eve. No way. Right now. I want to go right now. Ava nagged at his lips in a peevish yet flirtatious manner. The only sounds that filled the room were the distant voice of the announcer on the news, which Hideyoshi had left on, and the obnoxious pounding of the rain against the window. Okay, well. Everyone say bye to Ava and Hideyoshi. I'm sure we all enjoyed them on this journey we've had with them. But, that's probably the last time we're seeing them alive. There was a knock on the door, and Genji-san entered. Madam, dinner has been prepared. Will you eat in here again? Yes. Have it brought here. Please? Please, it doesn't kill to have some kindness in your requests. Please? Is Dr. Nanjo still in the kitchen? Yes. He has said he wishes to carefully deliberate over his next move. What move is he making? Oh, chess. Oh my god, I'm so stupid. Do not worry. He is with the other servants. What if I want to worry? What if I wish to worry? Genji-san is good enough at chess to be grandfather's opponent. I heard he's even better than Dr. Nanjo, right? That's right. Long ago, he played against me, but he must have let me win. Maria, sounds like it'll be time to eat soon. But look at you. You've been watching TV all day long and you still haven't gotten bored.
I'm always watching TV, so I'm fine.
Back to regular Maria. Maria-chan sure is a TV kid. So, modern day Maria would definitely be an iPad kid. Most definitely. It's Kevin, so you have to clean up the table. Earlier, we had torn several pages out of Maria's notebook, and there was now a mess where everyone had been drawing together. Wait, that's kind of cute. Oh, that's sweet. Family being family, kids being kids. The good days. Jessica began cleaning that up quickly. Cleaning up quickly. Alliteration. Still, everyone here really can draw. Really. I never guessed. I want to see. Genji, ask Ava-san and Hideyoshi-san whether they'd at least like to have dinner with us. So, hypothetically, are we going to find the door blocked and unable, they're unable to go in, but then they're going to be like, oh, well, I guess they don't want to have dinner. They must be asleep already. I guess we'll check on them tomorrow. Wink, wink. Nudge, nudge. Although they will probably turn us down. Certainly. First father, and now Ava-san. It's quite hard to gather everyone to the Ushumiya dinner table. Oh well. Natsu felt her headache start throbbing again and lightly held her temples. The distance from the kitchen to the parlor wasn't that great, so Genji had gone and come back by himself, but the guest room was a little further away. Natsu had warned him to avoid being alone whenever possible. And just now, Nanjo had also admonished him, saying it would be better if he held a little more concern for his safety. But he's just furniture, so it doesn't matter. I don't mean that in like a actual... I don't subscribe to this furniture mindset. I believe people are people. Kanon accompanied Genji, and the two of them went to visit Eva and Hideyoshi in their guest room. Eva, Hideyoshi, come out. Come out, please. Genji knocked on the door. Eva-sama, Hideyoshi-sama, dinner has been prepared. He waited a short while for them to come out, but there was no response. Genji-sama, look at this. Kanon pointed under the door. Oh. We're screwed, guys. We are screwed. Oh my god. I want to read it. I want to read it. Normally, when something was inserted this way, it'd be interpreted as a message from someone outside to someone in the room. So since this might be a private note meant for Eva and Hideyoshi, it was not something that Kanon and Genji were supposed to take interest in. But this western envelope was one of Kenzo's. The same kind as the one Maria had taken out last night and surprised everyone with. There can be no mistake. But it's one of the Master's envelopes. Or could it be from Beatrice? Even though this was one of Kenzo's envelopes, the letter Maria had read aloud the previous night hadn't come from Kenzo. Genji continued knocking a little harder and called out in a loud voice. Eva-sama, Eva-sama, it is Genji. Are you there? Please answer, Eva-sama. But there was no response from inside. Sometimes, when the servants went to call some guests for a meal, the guests would be sleeping so deeply that they wouldn't wake up. In times like that, the servants would stick a letter in the door to show that it was time to come out and leave the guest to be. But despite that, Genji beat even harder on the door and called out Eva's name. However, there was no answer. Kanon stuck his ear up to the door, held his breath, and listened for any sounds coming from inside. I hear something that sounds like the television, but I don't sense anyone. The room might be empty. Genji took out a handkerchief and, careful not to touch it with his bare hands, gently pulled out the envelope that had been stuck under the door. It was sealed with deep red sealing wax. Without a doubt, the mark on that sealing wax had come from the Ushirimiya family head's ring. The one that Beatrice is now in possession of, I presume. Eva-sama! Eva-sama! Please answer! Are you still in your room? But there was still no answer. There was a chance that those two were aimlessly walking around the mansion. This was the home Eva had grown up in. There was plenty of reason to think that she had gone out on a casual stroll. Genji groped around in his pocket and pulled out the bundle of keys which contained the key that would open the guest room. Is there a lock on the door? I don't see one. Genji-sama? Kanon also understood what this meant. They would sometimes unlock the door so they could go in and do things like make the beds, but only after they made sure the guests were out. To unlock the door for any other reason, and especially to do so when there was a chance the guest hadn't given permission and might still be in there, was an action unbecoming of a servant. But Genji had decided. The only problem had been that his knock hadn't received a reply. He wouldn't have gone this far. But the envelope under the door was doubtlessly one of Kinzo's. Or rather, one of the western envelopes of the Ushirimiya family head. After last night, the sender of this envelope could be someone other than Kenzo. This letter had been sent by someone else. Eva-sama, my apologies. Allow me to enter your room. After giving that final notice, Genji stuck one of the keys from the bundle into the keyhole. There was the sound of the door unlocking. And after slowly turning the knob, he slowly started opening the door. Light seeped through the crack of the door. Were they in the room? Or had they forgotten to turn out the lights? It was the sound of the door chain being pulled tight. The chain had been secured. The chain couldn't be secured from the outside, so it also proved that they were in the room. The sound of voices on the TV seeped out of the room. The lights, the chain, and the TV. All of these things made it clear they were in the room, but there was no sign of them. Genji called to Ava once again through the crack of the door, but there was no answer. Genji-sama, what should we do? As part of their job, the servants were able to unlock almost any lock in the mansion, but they had no way to open a door with a chain. The only way to get by the chain was to cut it, or kick in the door frame, but you know. That was certainly not permitted as part of the servants' usual work. A creepy chill had already rushed up their backs. Cannon held his breath again and tried to sense someone through the door, but even so, he was not able to sense anyone. I will call Madam and return. Cannon, cut the chain. Yes. As Cannon hurried away to get a cutting tool, Genji called him to a stop. Wait, Cannon. Return to the kitchen and take Kumasawa with you. You must not act alone. Yes, certainly. It looked like Cannon was wondering why he had to do something so troublesome in the middle of this urgent situation. But Genji had said it out of wariness. He didn't care what happened to himself, but in the worst case scenario, he didn't want anything to happen to Cannon. In the kitchen, Kumasawa was piling food on the serving cart. God damn, can this family not have a normal meal? Like, Jesus! It's always something with them. And Nanja was waiting for Genji, apparently waiting to show him a move he'd finally thought of that might turn the tables on him. But Genji's appearance immediately told him that something was wrong. Oh, what has happened, Genji-san? Dr. Nanja, my apologies, but please allow this match to be suspended for the time being. Cannon, take care of the chain. Kumasawa, stop setting up dinner for now and accompany Cannon. I will go over to Madam. If you would come with me, Dr. Nanjo. Has something happened? Genji took Nanjo, who still didn't know what was going on, and quickly left the kitchen. Kumasawa-san, my apologies, but please come with me. What has happened, Cannon-san? Kumasawa said almost exactly the same thing as Nanjo, unable to take in the situation, and chased after Cannon, who had flown out into the hallway. Taking Kumasawa with him, Cannon went to his storage room and looked at his tools packed in toolboxes and hanging all over the walls, trying to find something that could be used to cut the chain. What are you looking for? Let me help too. We're cutting a door chain. Where was that large wire cutter? A door chain? Why would you do something like that? The chain to Eva-sama and Hideyoshi-sama's room. Even though they should be inside, they didn't answer when we called them. It took Kumasawa some time to figure out how cutting the chain and Eva and Hideyoshi not answering were connected, but she did realize that this was an urgent situation. That one will probably do the trick. Cannon took down a very large wire cutter that had been hanging on the wall. It was called a cutter, but maybe it'd be easier to understand if we said it was shaped like a large pair of pliers. Cannon remembered once being warned that this dangerous tool could easily cut through one of your fingers. Cannon took that and rushed up the stairs. He already knew instinctively. He should fight for every minute, every second, to open it quickly. Or perhaps it was already. Please wait, Cannon-san. Hurry. Kumasawa eventually caught up with him, gasping for breath with both hands on her knees. When Cannon changed his grip on the wire cutters and looked up at the door, he let out struck speechless. Oh, fuck. What is that? What is this? Kumasawa screamed weakly, her face pallid. There was no surprise. Because right there, on the door, just like the magic circle that had been drawn on the shutter of the Rose Garden storehouse, there was another eerie shape drawn with a blood-like paint. However, it would be odd to call this one a magic circle, because unlike what most people would expect, it wasn't a circle with shapes drawn inside it, but a slightly more complicated geometrical shape. However, those strange characters filling in the gaps, which weren't from the alphabet, were the same kind as the ones on that magic circle on the shutter. But the thing that had Cannon struck speechless wasn't how eerie the magic circle was. It was the fact that it wasn't there when they left. It was that something like this hadn't been here a short while ago. First, he had taken a trip back to the kitchen. After that, he'd gone to the storage room to grab a tool and headed right back. Put those together, and it couldn't have been more than 5 minutes. How could someone add something this creepy during that period of time? And as though it had just been drawn. Almost like the door itself was bleeding. Several unsettling vertical red lines slowly dripped down, getting longer and longer. Kumasawa's knees gave way, and she sank down on the spot. Kumasawa hadn't done this first, and Cannon surely would have wanted to. Beatrice-sama. It's the work of Beatrice-sama. How horrid. How horrid. Cannon gulped, then readied the wire cutter and approached the door. He didn't want to get close to this disturbing magic circle, and he really didn't want to touch the steadily dripping substance that looked like blood. But if he didn't get close, he wouldn't be able to cut the chain. Fighting this cold feeling, he gulped again, and after gathering his courage, he went even closer, putting the wire cutter up against the chain. He then pressed with all of his strength, managing to cut through the chain far more easily than he had anticipated. The cut chain fell into 2 separate parts, which continued to clang as they swayed back and forth. Cannon-san, there's an envelope by your feet. And isn't that the master's? It looked like Kumasawa's had also noticed the western envelope at the bottom of the door, and that the sealing wax had been sealed with the head's ring. Cannon hesitated for just a second over whether he should open the letter first or check inside the room, but he eventually decided on fulfilling his original purpose. Cannon pulled a handkerchief out of his pocket. This was so he wouldn't leave fingerprints on the door. If his worst fears were realized, the police would want to investigate this room too. He slowly pushed the door open. He was able to move more clearly. He was able to more clearly hear the sound of the television, which had been seeping out faintly this whole time. Eva-sama? Eva was lying face up on the bed. On the bed with her shoes still on. Kumasawa, who had fearfully entered after Cannon, who was hiding behind his back, screamed a short eek again when she saw Eva like that. Eva's shoes had been the first part of her that Cannon had seen, so the oddness of wearing shoes in bed was the first thing to strike him. But when Ava's head shifted into his line of sight, Cannon couldn't help but let out a short scream like Kumasawa. Right in the middle of Ava's forehead, something had been placed? Something was growing there? No. Right in the center of her forehead. Was it an old-fashioned knife? That or some weapon like it was sticking out? At the base of where it was stuck in, blood dripped down, staining the sheets on the other side bright red. Kumasawa's knees gave way once more, and she sank down onto the floor. Her mouth kept flapping open and closed, but she couldn't even scream. Ava was dead, with some kind of weapon sticking out of her forehead. Both eyes were open wide, and the image of the person who killed her must have been burned into them. But the only mouth capable of naming that person had been shut for all eternity. Even though her forehead was the last place they wanted to look, they couldn't tear their eyes from it. Right there, the weapon was stuck into Ava's forehead, standing almost perfectly upright. And on the handle was a complicated design that you wouldn't expect to see on an ordinary weapon. That thing could be summed up with the word occult. It was a vulgar object with a design that might have been some demon. What about Hideyoshi-sama? Hideyoshi-sama. Eva was on top of her bed, but the other bed was empty. Where was Hideyoshi? After taking a backwards glance at Kumasawa, still on her knees and stupefied, he checked the bathroom just in case. At the moment he opened the door, he was greeted by steam and the sound of the shower. The bathroom was of the same familiar style as most hotel bathrooms. When taking a shower, a waterproof curtain was used to keep water from flying out. That waterproof curtain was half open, and lying tumbled down in the bathtub was Hideyoshi, completely naked, with both eyes open. Fuck. Ew. And pointing right at Kennen. Just like Eva, a weapon with a demon-like design was stuck into his forehead. Since his head had been under the shower's hot water this whole time, his face wasn't half covered and filthy with blood under, like Ava's had been. But the sight of him dead while taking a shower was tragic enough. Just then, they heard Natsu's voice coming from the hall. She was probably coming with Genji. Again with this graffiti. What about this letter? What does it say inside? I don't know. I haven't read it yet. We shouldn't touch it carelessly. The culprit's fingerprints might be left on it. We should hand it over to the police. They went out of their way to leave it here. I'm sure they wouldn't have left fingerprints. As Natsu said that, she picked up the envelope. And before checking its contents, she entered the room herself, where she found Eva, dead. Eva-san! Madam, Hideyoshi-sama is here too. This is truly atrocious. Ken, turn off the shower. Don't let this be more pitiful than it needs to be. Yes, madam. Kennen gripped his handkerchief and twisted the valve, turning off the shower. In the bathtub, a small jar of body soap had fallen with its cap off. It really looked like he'd been attacked while taking a shower. There was still a small splash of blood clinging to the white bathtub, and the combination of red and white made a horrible contrast. Dr. Nanjo. I understand. No signs of post-mortem lividity. Rigor mortis hasn't begun either. It would seem that an hour or so has passed since they were killed. But even so, how a weapon with such a short handle could do that to the skull, I cannot imagine. Nanjo checked their pulse and their pupils, making certain of their deaths once more. As Kennen watched this business-like treatment, he thought, couldn't you tell with a glance that they're dead without doing all that? Nanjo thought about removing the weapon, but then decided it'd be better to preserve the scene and hand it over to the police, so he left it alone. But a close inspection of the base showed that it didn't have a blade. In fact, it was more conical than blade-shaped. He noticed that rather than a knife, it was more like a short-handled spear, or something with a shape better suited for thrusting than slicing. Some people might have likened it to a thick ice pick rather than a short spear. At any rate, after looking at this scene, no further words were needed to describe what sort of purpose such eerily designed weapons were originally made for. Nor was it necessary to explain how they carried out their function. Natsu, hoping to escape the repulsive steam filling the bathroom as soon as she could, covered her mouth with a handkerchief and dashed from the room. Just viewing their gruesome bodies for an instant had been enough to burn the image into her eyes. If she looked any longer, that image would surely remain in her vision for all eternity. The rising urge to vomit was exactly the same feeling she'd had that morning at the gardening storehouse. For a while, Natsu couldn't help but stand with her back facing the guest room, fighting that sickness in her stomach. At any rate, we can't let George-kun see this room. Seal this room with all haste. Yes, we mustn't let them see. George-san saw his parents in this brutal state. But they could tell that those fiercely racing footsteps in the hallway belonged to George even before he came dashing into the room. George and the other children had been waiting in the parlor. However, when they saw Genji speak to Natsu, when they saw her turn pale and fly out of the parlor, they'd felt a sense of foreboding. Ushirmia Ava, found on the bed of a guest room inside the mansion with a weapon resembling an ice pick sticking out of her forehead. Ushirmia Hideyoshi, found in the bathroom of the same guest room that Ava was found in. Like Ava, there was a weapon resembling an ice pick sticking out of his forehead. You can't see either of them looking through the gap in the door while the chain is set. You can't see them, so you can't reach them. Hey, how could a human possibly kill them? Well, shit. They're dead. As I suspected. I wonder what's in that second letter, but we'll be finding that out the next episode. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you again next time. Bye!